Hi guys, so today I'm going to be showing you what I do with my pumped milk that I pump during one given day. So how I prep my bottles for my next day, and then also how I freeze any excess. So the first thing is I have my milk here that I have already pumped. I am pumping for twins, so I need to pump anywhere between 50 and 60 ounces in a day. So I pump into mason jars, and then any excess I'll put in bottles. But by pumping into mason jars, you're cleaning less bottles, and since we're already cleaning so many pump parts, it just really saves on time. So I take it out of my cooler, or if I am home and it's a weekend, I'll take it out of the fridge and let it sit for a couple of minutes, so that way the milk can kind of come to room temperature. So when you swirl your milk to get all of the Hein and the fore milk together, it comes together easier. So you just swirl it. I purchased this top off of Amazon, which is extremely helpful for making sure you don't spill any of your precious breast milk. I'll link where I got it and all of that good stuff below. So my girl has reflux, so we use Dr. Brown's bottles with the inserts, and we use a number 1 nipple right now, and that seems to work best for her. We're almost at the 4-month mark, but I don't anticipate switching nipples anytime soon. So if your baby has reflux and you haven't looked into different bottles, these are really great because they're slow flow. You could also get a preemie nipple if your child is younger or maybe just requires a slower flow. And this is the slowest bottle that we have tried out that has been successful for us. So I get all my bottles ready, and I'm gonna go ahead and pour my milk into the bottles and prep them all up, and then I'll show you what I do next. Okay, so I have my bottles all made out for my next day from the milk that I pumped today. So these are ready to go. They have the tops on them, so it's nice and sanitary. So Medela makes this, it's a little bit dirty, but Medela makes this, and it's really great for keeping your milk organized for the next day, especially if you have more than one baby, because I like to line up all the bottles for one baby here, all the bottles for the other baby here, depending upon where you are with your child. If it's really early on and they're drinking every 2 hours, this is obviously not enough space, but if they're every 4 hours or a little bit more or maybe a little bit less, you can probably fit everything you need right in to this one container, which is really helpful. Something also, just while I'm talking about it, for storing bottles in here is, especially for a stay-at-home mom or a mom that is nursing mostly but does pump on the occasion to get her freezer supply up, Medela makes these really awesome tops. So that way you can label when you're pumping and you know when the milk was pumped. So you can pick the particular day, and this top just kind of slides over. So you can pick the particular day that you want, as well as it was AM, the middle of the day, or in the evening. And then you can just pop it up if it wants to go, pop it up. And then this is the top for your bottle. So if you are just again pumping on an occasion, maybe twice a day, you're storing a couple of ounces. This is great because then you just put it in your little caddy here, and then you can freeze it every 2 or 3 days, which is definitely less time consuming if you're doing it that way. So these are great to have, especially in the beginning when you're getting your milk supply to be regular and you're pumping more often. These are great. So I recommend them. Okay, so we've made our bottles. This is what we're going to be freezing. This was what was left over from today. This is a lot. It's normally not this much, but because it is weekend, I was home to nurse my boy, and I pump to keep up my pumping schedule. So that's why we have this much excess. So to save it, I have tried all different breast milk storage bags. These are the best. The Lancinon, I don't really know how you say it. That's all right. Bags. These are the best because they have a double lock. let's take this off so you can see. So they have a double zipper lock, which is great because you're not gonna spill your breast milk. And what's really helpful about it is you can put the day that you pumped, the time, how much, a name if you're pumping for 2 different children. I am pumping for 2 different children and don't do that. I keep it super simple. I just put the day that I pumped and how many ounces it is. Do not use this to measure. You will get totally messed up. And I'm going to show you. When you are measuring your milk, you measure in a bottle and then pour it in. Another trick, when you are defrosting this, use your breast shield to put it in a bottle like this, okay? So it's like a funnel. You're gonna open your bag that has your defrosted breast milk in and you're gonna pour it in. You will not spill a drop of milk if you're doing it this way. Breast milk is precious. It is liquid gold. Do not spill a drop. So that's a good trick to have when you're defrosting it when it's time to do that. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and make my storage situation here. So like I said, I just write the date. I'm pretty sure today is the 5th. And how many ounces. So you can freeze different amounts depending upon where you are. So when I first started pumping, when my babies were just born, I froze in 2-ounce increments. The worst thing is when you have to defrost more milk than you need and you need it in a rush, so you have to run it under warm water and then that's it. So let's say you're defrosting 4 ounces, you run under warm water, baby only needs 3, you're losing an ounce. So I recommend freezing in smaller increments so that way you can not lose the milk. However, if your baby's already up to 5 ounces, or if you're like me and you're feeding for multiples, go ahead and do maybe 4, 5, or even 6 ounces if you're feeding for more than 1, or if you know that you can leave it in the fridge to defrost it overnight, because then you don't need it for one particular feeding. So with breast milk, as long as you're not running it over warm water and getting it higher than room temperature, it's good for 24 hours. So in the fridge, when you defrost it, you have 24 hours to use it. So I'm gonna freeze in 5-ounce increments because that's what my babies are taking right now. These bags hold up to 6. I have froze 6 in here before, but it gets a little bit full, and when I show you how we actually freeze the bags, you want them as flat as possible for storage reasons. So 5 is really what I recommend at max. So I'm gonna go ahead and write 5 ounces on this bag just for purposes of this. Normally I'm gonna prep out probably 5, 6, 7 bags, however many I feel like I need. And then once I have all of that, then I'm gonna go on and measure. So here's my bottle with how much ounces on the side. This is a Medela bottle. You can use any one, it doesn't matter. I'm gonna pour my breast milk from today into 5 ounces. Pop open my bag, pour it in. You want to get as much air as possible. It's just when you're freezing your food, it's the same way. The more air you have, the more frostbite you have. And just like you don't like frostbite on your food, your children aren't going to either. Okay, so let's pretend that I have my 20 bags here, however many I am going to freeze for the day. This thing is amazing. I highly recommend it. It is a game changer. I'll link down below where I got it. It helps freeze your breast milk flat, so that way, and it takes up less space in the freezer. So you just pull this thing back, lock it in. Don't lose this. We've done that. And you see it's almost pretty much flat, and this is a 5-ounce bag of breast milk. So I just leave in what I've frozen, and when this gets full, I make a brick, and I'll do another video on how to make a brick. It's not that serious, but anyways, so you put your breast milk flat like this. The most I'd recommend is probably freezing anywhere between like 30 and 40 ounces at a time in this when it's like fresh breast milk like this and not frozen, because then the bags kind of wibble wobble all over the place. Then you take where this stick is, but where the flat portion goes down, unlock this, push it down, and now your bags are gonna freeze flat. Has a lid for sanitary reasons, and you can freeze probably almost, depending how you do it, maybe 75 ounces into this thing at one time, which is so amazing that you can freeze that many flat at once, especially if you're like me and you need to freeze every evening. So I'll go ahead, I'll freeze them all, and then we'll come back. Okay, so I went ahead and measured all of my milk and put it into my storage container, just like I showed you guys. So the last step that I do every evening is I write down how many ounces I pumped, so that way I know what I have in my storage freezer. So I know people have apps for this, and I have tried it, but it's just not for me. I'm old school and like to write it down. So I write it actually directly on my my breast milk box. So when I started to use this box, this is how much I had in my freezer, 1,960. And each day when I pump, I go on and I write how much I'm pumping for, how much I'm storing rather for the day. And if I take any out, so for example, I had something there, I don't remember what it was, but I had to use 28 ounces that day. So I put a little negative, so that way I know when I open up my next box and I need to know what my total number is, I subtract that 28 rather than add it. So today I had 29 ounces that I froze, so I'm just gonna go on and write 29 so I know to add that in. I know, very archaic, but I like to write it down. That's just what works for me. So that's my whole process of how I store my pump milk and how I make my bottles for the next day. And the best part about it is I only have really four, but 3 things to wash, rather than before when I used to do it and I would store in bottles and I would have probably 10 bottles to wash every night. So this is, I think, the most easy and streamlined way of doing it, and I hope that this video was helpful.